Okay, let's roll. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so I know so much about you because of what I do, right? So I feel like I know so much about your health, your biochemistry, your background, all that. But I wanted to like brush up on all your stuff, all your like basketball history and all of that. So I totally was on Wikipedia this week and reading all about you. And there is like no way to introduce you. You have so many awards and like crazy stuff. So rather than like try to introduce who you are, this is how I would introduce you. I would say Sue Bird is an incredible human with incredible talent. And she's just an overall like kick-ass person who happens to play basketball.
I'll take it.
That's what I would say. And then if anybody listening or watching wants to look up your awards, they can Google you. Okay, so I want to start with how I normally kind of check in with you and my other clients, just so people can see kind of when I call you guys to say, what's up? How are you feeling? All that. I kind of call it my mom check-in because I feel like such a mom.
Yeah, one time you thought I got kidnapped because I didn't respond.
Yes, I was like, are you
like, is everything okay?
So I got like all the players' moms. I got you covered. Okay, so how are you feeling physically?
I'm actually feeling really good. You know, I know we'll get into this. I had surgery recently, so obviously I'm not like in tip-top shape or feeling like I can go play a basketball game type good, which is like my usual barometer for good. But I think given that I just had surgery, I'm only on this Thursday. So today's Tuesday. On this Thursday, it'll be my 3rd week post-op. So like, given that I'm 3 weeks and it's pretty fresh, I feel really good.
And how is the surgery process? I know you've had surgeries before, but
yeah. Well, yeah. So for me, it's kind of like low key. I'm like, oh, I get to have surgery. This is great. I get to sleep for like 3 days and no one can say boo to me about it.
Yeah.
I don't really mind it. And I'm lucky though. I don't get sick from like anesthesia doesn't make me sick. Pain pills don't make me sick. Even though I was only on those for like 3-4 days maybe. And then I kind of got off. But yeah, so surgery went well and didn't have a lot of swelling coming out. I actually had a lot of time leading up to like really get strong because the stronger you are going into surgery, the less likely just the better you'll be on the other side of it, like atrophy and all that stuff. So didn't really have a lot of swelling. And because I didn't have a lot of swelling, I lost my muscle, but not like crazy. Like you can see it, it's there, it's alive. It just needs to get built back up. So those two things, I think for an athlete who just had surgery on like a limb, those two things are like probably the most important because everything else is going to heal and it takes time, but the less swelling you have and the quicker you can get your muscle back, the better.
Yeah. Well, and you were so good about doing some like what they call prehab, like prehabilitation type stuff. And so we're always yelling at you about protein and making sure you get in your protein. I loved your picture of the salmon. You're like, I went to the counter and asked for protein and this is what they gave me, this many grams of protein.
So the prehab, obviously you helped in that, but the prehab for me was increasing my protein intake, which has continued after my surgery as well. It's little stuff like, you know, some of the vitamins I go on, like you have to go off fish oil, which luckily I've been through this. So I actually knew that, like, but on the like call, the 2-day before call, when the hospital calls you to kind of like, you know, prep you, that's one of the things they tell you. I'm trying to think what else.
And you were moving still, like you were keeping light, like movement going into it. You didn't totally.
Oh yeah, I was working out.
Yeah, you weren't totally like immobile, which most people would think, oh, I have to just sit.
Right.
You actually want to keep it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was saying before, it's like the stronger you are going in, the better you are afterwards. It really does make a difference.
Oh, that's so good. Good.
Yeah, everything's going well.
How are you sleeping?
I'm sleeping pretty well. Yeah, I'm on. I was just saying, I was like, I'm in Seattle now, but my surgery was on the East Coast, so like I kind of adjusted. And even though I've been back for like 2 weeks, I'm somehow still on East Coast time, which I don't mind. I go to bed really early. I get up really early. I like do laundry. It's like
so productive.
I'm my mom. Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, I still get like my normal amount of time a night. So yeah.
Good. And you feel like you're not waking in the middle of the night to
I mean, every now and then.
Yeah. And then do you wake up feeling rested and are you able to fall asleep? Okay.
I fall asleep that is never my issue. If I ever do have problems sleeping, it's usually the wake up at like 3 a.m. and for some reason it takes me like an hour to fall back asleep or whatever the case. Falling asleep though, never a problem. Like I'm out within like minutes. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. How's your water intake?
It's a work in progress.
How many do you think you're getting in? How many ounces?
I have no idea. I feel like
how many water bottles?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I am there's extremes. Like there's definitely days or weeks where I know I'm not drinking enough. And then there's weeks where I'm like, I can't chug enough, you know?
Yeah.
That's probably because I didn't have some the week before maybe, but yeah, so like I try. I have water bottles everywhere in my apartment. So it's just like an easy grab. I have one that I always keep in my car. So again, just like an easy grab. Luckily when you're on a team, there's just like liquids all around you all the time.
Yes.
Water, Gatorade, this, that. So I try. I definitely try. It's a work in progress though.
Okay, good. And then for you, we were working on like specific colorful vegetables. So like the red, oranges, yellows, greens. So what are you doing for those?
I mean, all my meals are pretty standard. And then I just, meaning like protein, the veggie, like whatever carb starch that I'm in the mood for. And then I just kind of like rotate. It's almost like I've definitely gotten to a point with my food. And for me, this is a good thing. This is going to sound boring, but I'm like decision fatigue. So I just kind of have this like rotating every now and then. I might like open up a cookbook and try to get more creative. But when you're lately, because Megan's at the World Cup for like the last month and a half, it's just been me. So, you know, it's just easier just to be like, boom, 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 done.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just depends. Like the other night I did like a little kind of, like a little stir fry situation. And that's like, to me, the easiest way to just be like this veggie, that veggie, this veggie, that veggie.
Yeah.
And obviously
goes in so easy.
So easy. And so the more colorful, like the more pretty your plate is. So it's like, you know, you're doing it right. Like if it looks too boring, you know, you didn't do it right.
I know, with those dinners that you make that are like all brown or all tan.
Yeah, you're like, I need to throw something in there. Yeah. But yeah, like I really don't have, off the top of my head, I can't think of any vegetable, any protein that I don't like. So it's just a matter of that day when I'm in the grocery store, like, today I'll do this, this, and this. Yeah. You know, whether it's, so the colorful stuff's not an issue. Like it's super easy for me.
Good. And then we went gluten-free, dairy-free, or like low lactose, I should say, and low gluten during season. So, you know, you can have those right now if you want. How has that been for you?
So the gluten was probably the biggest adjustment, and that was like a year ago. And like you said, it was for my during the season. And what made it difficult was when I was traveling. So like you know, it's like you're just kind of prisoner at times to what's available, because sometimes, you know, maybe you're at a hotel where the closest restaurant that has what you want is like 20 minutes away. You just don't have the time. So you have to like eat in the hotel and just like make it work. So that was kind of an adjustment. You know, I ended up having to, I mean, I did it, but I ended up having to eat things that like I wouldn't have normally ate. It's like not my favorite. Like I like oatmeal. I don't love it. I like eggs and toast and that kind of. So if they didn't have gluten-free bread, I would just have to do like eggs, some veggies in that. I usually do like a scramble, or make them do a scramble. Everyone's always like, what? I'm like, just scramble it in there. Like, you don't want an omelet? No. And then like a little cup of oatmeal. Yeah. Which, you know, isn't the sexiest breakfast for me, but it was good. But yeah, the gluten was the hardest just because on the road, they don't always have the options. So it's, you know, and sometimes it's just so easy. You finish practice, you go, you just want to like grab an easy sandwich. Do they have gluten-free bread? Okay, they don't. And then you have to like figure out other ways. So that was the hardest. It's become way easier now. Like once you get like, you know, your little flow with it, it just becomes that much easier. So it's been good. Yeah. I pretty much stick with it. I do have, I mean, like the other day, this bagel store that's from my hometown, they sent me like this huge thing of bagels. I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing.
It was like twisty green, right?
Yeah, they did that. Yeah. So it was like a little get well package. Yeah. So I've been like living on those bagels the last couple of mornings. I can't help myself. They're so freaking good. They're the best bagels in the world. I've been everywhere. I've had many bagels, best bagels in the world. I'm like not even saying that lately.
You know, I went to New York and they said, we have the best bagels. And they said something about, they're like, we don't know what it is. It's in the
The
water. It's
water.
something.
It
And they're
is
like,
the
we
water.
make the best bagels. And seriously, I had a New York bagel and nothing will touch it now.
Nope. It's the water. It's literally the water. It's like something in the water, like I don't even know.
That's so funny.
It's actually the water. It's not like, they're not just saying that.
That's crazy.
So
and just for people listening, so the reason that we went gluten-free, low lactose for Sue was based on her genetic variants. So she's not, you're not celiac.
No.
And you're not even symptomatically like gluten sensitive, I would say.
No.
But because she's an elite athlete, because you're an elite athlete, we want to prevent any sort of inflammation, right, in the gut, anything that could potentially cause, and we're looking for like minuscule ways that we can get ahead for you. So it was mostly just preventative, like, okay, you have a couple of these variants, so in case they decide to become active, let's bring it down. So you can process lactose, but maybe your threshold might be lower than the average person. So that's why we went low lactose for you. And there are some like lower lactose dairy products, that you can have. That we talked about. And then, so that's why she kind of flips, or you kind of flip like on and off season. So
yeah,
just to make that clear for everybody, because I think there's this huge fad and thing that gluten and dairy are terrible for you. And that's where genetics come into play and biochemistry and all of that, because then you can actually see, like, for this person, it might be awful. And for this person, it's totally fine. And so as an athlete, I think if we can include gluten and dairy, those are such great sources of like carbohydrate, protein, and different minerals and vitamins and stuff. So if we can keep those in, I want to for you guys. But if, there's potential for a little bit of gut inflammation or whatever, let's take it out.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So that was my mom check-in. Did I miss anything?
No, we're good. Nothing. Everything's the same.
Okay, good. Okay. So let's get to kind of like the interview part. So I love to ask and talk about like food culture with people. So we all approach food based on the way we grew up with food. And it's kind of like every counselor will tell you, you are formed as a child and then you bring that stuff into your adult life and then you kind of play with it and adjust it based on your environment and who you're around. But food is something that we don't really think about, that's so ingrained on us as a child. And so I would love to hear the story of your food culture and kind of the vibe that was around food for you, like as a little kid, stuff, anything that you remember from then up through like elementary, middle school, and then high school, we get a little bit more independent. So you can like pick at school lunch and things like that, or ask your mom to like buy this at the grocery store, pack this. And then once we ship off to college, we're like on our own. So then it's like, what do we buy? The store, how do we shop? How do we cook? All that stuff. So I would love to hear about your food culture.
So my dad's a doctor, my mom's a nurse, and it's not to say that they were psycho about the food stuff. Like my mom still, brought me McDonald's for lunch every now and then in elementary school, or maybe it was more like middle school, which was like, Sue Bird, please come to the office. And you're like, what's going on? And then it was like, oh, my mom brought me McDonald's. So it's not to say things like that didn't happen, but I was also it was very much a household of like, eat your vegetables. Like I just have vivid memories of, and things like Brussels sprouts, where as a kid, it's like, that's the most disgusting thing. And so they would have to airplane it into my mouth. Spinach, I got sold the whole Popeye thing, like, oh, don't you want to have big muscles like Popeye? And I'd be like, feed me, So it was just that definitely sticks out, was like, eat your vegetables. I mean, my mom made probably every like standard American, like meatloaf, obviously with steak or chicken or whatever. For some reason, meatloaf really just resonates. Like nothing, I never had to like endure the whole liver thing. I feel like some kids have stories of having to be force-fed liver. I never had that, so I feel lucky. But there was also like, slice and bake chocolate cookie dough in the fridge, or in the freezer, or things like that. So I think it was actually a pretty good balance looking back. They were never sticklers about much other than like, eat the vegetables on your plate. I'm like, okay.
So was it like clean plate club style, or was it like try, and if you don't like it, just, you had to try it and that was it?
It wasn't like strict clean your plate. Like you can't get up until everything's off that plate. You hear about kids like falling asleep in their meals. It wasn't like that. But like I think similar to how I am as an adult, I think I was as a kid. Like there was not much I didn't like. So it's like I ate it.
You weren't picky.
No, not really. I mean, I was actually, the pickiness that I had was I didn't like when it touched.
Oh
So
yeah.
like this stayed here, that stayed here, that I didn't like the mixing. I can do it a little more now. I'm not like that. I'm not 38, like don't have them touch.
Yes.
But I was like that as a kid. So I was very much like, can't touch. But no, like, well, every weekend we woke up to like the smell of, eggs and bacon. Every morning, because both my parents work, like I said. So there were mornings where, I woke up and it was like all I had, it was like the bowl, the bowl, the spoon, and then it was like the cereal, the milk. All I had to do was like combine.
Yes.
They weren't gonna like, so there was mornings where they weren't there, and I had to like catch the bus on my own. But so they weren't gonna. That was the message. If my mom couldn't make breakfast, it was like, I've laid it out for you perfectly.
Yes.
So I was I think that pretty much sums up my childhood. My dad was more like, let's go out, when it was his job. He wasn't cooking. My dad was not in the kitchen. He was like, and we'll go out. I'm like, all right, whatever.
That's easy. What about like family meals? Did you guys eat together as a family? Or I can imagine you were probably so busy with sports and stuff and activities.
Yeah.
And kids these days are like so much more busy than even we were. But so did you guys eat as a family a couple days a week, or was it kind of like you're on your own, or how was that? How was the like dinner portion?
Yeah, I would say 70-30. We were just on our own. Or like 70-30, there would only be like two family. I have an older sister. She's 5 years older. So maybe like she had an activity and it was just, me, my mom, and my dad. Or maybe, my mom had to take my sister. It's just me and my dad, or something like that. So I would say 70% of the time was like that. And then there was like to say occasional, like once a week, probably not that often, where it was like the four of us could sit down, but it was never like the mandatory type thing that you hear some families now weren't like that.
Well, especially with your doctor and nurse, those are two jobs that can go overtime very easily. And your mom probably worked like longer shifts.
She actually, so once I got to middle school, she actually changed to just being, I don't say it like just being, but from an hour standpoint, she moved on to be a school nurse. So then it was like a little more like, she was basically working the same time as me and my sister were in school. So it worked out a little, like just from like a time scheduling perspective. Yeah.
More stable. Was she a nurse at your school?
She was. She was at the high school. Yeah.
How was that?
It was fine. I only went to that high school for 2 years. I ended up transferring for basketball reasons, but it was great. I mean, I didn't abuse it, but I definitely had, if I needed a pass or something, I knew who to go to.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And she was like, the good thing was, the good and the bad was, she was definitely like the cool nurse, which was great because, your mom doesn't have a bad rep. So nobody, I don't know, if like, imagine your mom was like the jerk and then you're like the daughter of the jerk nurse. It could have been, but she was the cool nurse. Everybody like, was cool about it. Except she was friends with like some older people, not friends. That sounds weird. She was like cool with some of the older students, and they would like report back to her like, saw Susie at a party. Just FYI. And I was like, what? Can I live?
Tattletale?
Yeah, not in a bad way, but I was like, man. But yeah, so it was good. It was good. No bad stories.
Oh my God. Did you pack your lunch or bring? I mean, bring your lunch or buy in high school?
Yeah. In high school, buy. Nobody brought their lunch, like very rarely.
What was your fave? What was your fave day?
I don't even remember. I know they baked fresh Otis Spunkmeyer cookies, and that was like everybody, like fresh out of the oven. Everyone would be lining up for those. Yeah. Otherwise, honestly, I don't even remember what the days were. Like I have no memory. I know I ate. Don't worry about it. But like I have no memory of when I went to my second high school. They actually, unlike my first high school, they actually served. This is wild. There's 9 periods a day, and they had lunch starting at period 2. So you're talking like it's 9:30 and they're already giving kids lunch. Yeah. But that was, you could get breakfast.
Oh.
So that, I remember that was being breakfast, as it turns out, is my favorite meal anyway. So no wonder I remember that.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So cooking, did you cook with your mom a lot growing up, or were you interested in that? Did you want her to show you, or your dad, did you want them to show you how to do it? Or were you just kind of like in college and like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing?
No, my mom taught me a lot. Like
That's
nothing
awesome.
Crazy. I mean, like I said, a lot of what we did was very basic, but like, I knew how to like make things once I got to college. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy, but like I knew the basics, which gets you by.
And then now, do you feel like you're an adventurous cook, a basic cook? Do you like to cook, or would you rather have someone else cook?
No, I actually really enjoy cooking. Like I said earlier, when it's just me, I'm definitely a little more boring with it. Because it's hard, like, when you're making one serving, you can't really, it's like not as fun. So it started when I went overseas, actually. So like college, yeah, we actually, I didn't have a kitchen in college until my senior year. So the other 3 years I was in like a dorm with no kitchen. So it wasn't until my senior year where we started cooking more. Then obviously immediately I went to the WNBA and I was totally on my own, cooked a little bit. But it was really when I started going to Russia, playing overseas in Europe. That was like, because now you're just like on your own in a whole different way because you're in this other country and you know you can't really speak the language necessarily. So now you're really starting to cook. And that's when I started to like, I'd buy cookbooks and I would try to like go through all of them, you know, and just try to make everything. And at one point I lived in this house with two other teammates. And so it was fun to get like adventurous for other people and see like, so what'd you think of that? You know, and I'd get there and then they would have favorites that they would request, that kind of thing. So that's kind of when it first became both fun for me, but then also maybe like a little therapeutic. Like it was not like you're in Russia. So people understand it's like, you're kind of bored a lot of the time. So this became this thing where I was like, 2 hours of my day, you know, where I would like take my time shopping, and it became this like kind of therapeutic thing where I was killing some time.
Yeah. Well, and I can imagine grocery shopping in a different country is like a wild experience. Like you can't read any of the labels. You're guessing what something is. Yeah. Like, what spice is this?
Yeah. You figure it out, but the early parts are kind of entertaining. And then there are times where you come across a recipe you want to make, and it might have an ingredient on there that's kind of like a wild card. I'm trying to think like what's a good one. Okay, this is actually not a wild card, but it was very difficult to find. Whipping cream. Like you could, and it was like you go in there and it's like nothing's in English, so it's like a lot of things could be it. Like there's a lot, you know. And Russia is actually I would say a country obsessed with sour cream. It's like they love it. They put it on everything. I mean, everything. They put it in their soups. They put it on their salads. They put it. One of my teammates would cut up tomatoes and just put sour cream all over it, and that was like her snack.
Oh my gosh,
wild. And they have like a huge range of like percentage. I guess it's like fat percentage. Oh. So you can get like the way almost like we do milk, but like from like 1 to like I swear like 50. Like every like this huge range of sour cream. So you go into like that department and you're trying to find something that's not sour cream, and it's just like what. So whipping cream
totally end up with sour cream instead of whipping cream.
Oh, many a times came home. But then we had a translator that helped us. I would literally just be like to the translator, and then I would like go to somebody in the store, and I would just try to like hand the phone to someone who worked in the store, and they'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'd be like, you know, I said, "Push all stuff, please." And I'd be like, "Hello," but then they would take me to the aisle I need to go to, and then once you see it once, you know what it is. And you know how to find it. Yeah, and then you start to read more, and then you're self-sufficient.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
A lot of wildness, though.
That's really funny. Yeah. And difficult. Nice challenges there with some food.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, so moving on from kind of food and the way you grew up with food, talk to me about focusing more on your nutrition now as an adult, as in a player. So, you know, from what I understand, from what you've told me, you know, your rookie year and your initial seasons in the NBA, I mean, you're focusing so much on your God-given talent, you know, and you're focusing on your strength and your workouts and being strong. Like you're focusing on your physical body, but it's more like, you know, what your body can do for you and keeping your muscle strong and that kind of thing, but less on like an internal perspective. Yeah. So tell me about that transition for you.
Well, I think, you know, when I was, so I was in college from 98 to 2002. And like my early years are like, obviously 2002 to like, let's say 2008-ish. And there wasn't, at that period of time, it wasn't a lot of talk about nutrition. Like I actually remember, I mean, there was, but not how it is now. And I actually remember like in college, we had a nutritionist come in and take our team like through the cafeteria and kind of give us some like tidbits. And the message we all left with was, you guys work out enough, eat what you want, which there's some truth to that. But like never was I educated on the whole, like to me, it comes down to, as an athlete, it comes down to like, you're fueling, you're refueling, and then you're like fueling again for like the workout, right? So you're fueling for the workout, you're doing the workout, you're refueling from what you just like probably killed yourself doing. And then it starts all over. It was never really explained. So luckily I had like a good enough baseline where I wasn't eating like crap. Like I was never a big snacker. I wasn't like selective. Like if I wanted an Oreo, I had it. If I wanted a bag of Doritos, I had it, but that just didn't happen often. So I wasn't eating terribly, but like my when was all messed up. I would like skip meals sometimes just cause like I didn't have time to do it or I wasn't hungry. I wasn't eating the right things at the right time. So that was my growth, I think, more than anything. But it was more so about being told you can eat whatever you want, whenever you want. It doesn't really matter because you're burning enough calories anyways. To then getting to a point where it was like, I feel like I feel like I could do more. Like, I feel like, when you start hearing people who've changed their nutrition. And for me, it was meeting Susan Borchard. She worked for our team and she was she's funny because she's like a little bit of a, I'm trying to the best way to describe her. It's like, she's like the sweetest and she's got this blonde hair. And so she's very like this angel. Right. But like, but she like kind of sends these like, I was going to call her a tiger because she's not outwardly a tiger, but like, she knows exactly what you need to be doing. And so she'll be like, okay, like this sweet face is telling you like, okay, you got to work out and do this,
Get on it.
Like,
no excuses.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So like, she's not aggressive, but she is, but she's not, but she is. Yep. And what happened was I wasn't actually, now like we work together. This was when she was working for our team. So it was kind of more like hints at nutrition to all of us. Like, hey guys, subtle hint, subtle hint, subtle hint. And you could pick it up or not. Yep. And then it got to a point where I was basically like, I felt like I was plateauing in my career. And I was just like, all right, I need to try to do everything I can. And so her little voice was in the back of my head about nutrition. And then I basically just went to her and I was just like, all right, I'm in. Like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. And then that's when my nutritional journey began.
Yes. So how Susan and I know each other, right? Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So her husband and my husband played basketball together at Stanford. And so we had known each other like on a personal level and, your friends' careers or whatever. Like she knew I was a dietitian. I knew she did strength and conditioning and stuff and she used to work for Stanford and now she's working for Storm and stuff. But we hadn't really connected on work before. Like whenever we got together, it was like kids and family and visiting and all that stuff. And so she called me one day and she's like, hey, I saw this article that you're in and I'm super fascinated by what you're doing with like the genetics and the biochemistry. And I have a couple clients for you. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like have them call me. And she's like, no. She's like, these are athletes. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not a sports dietitian like that. Yeah. I don't know what to do with that. And she's like, no. They don't need like the sports stuff. They need like next level stuff. Like they want to do what you're doing normally. So just treat them like you would your normal clients. You don't have to, this because they have a team dietitian. They kind of have that stuff covered. Like they've been there, done that. I was like, okay. And she's like, so it's Sue Bird and Megan Rafino. I was like, oh, okay. I can do that. So yeah, when you first heard that Susan was going to like refer you over to me and you heard what I did, what was your initial reaction? Like, what did you think?
So I trust Susan like with my life and that obviously develops over time, but cause like kind of similar to what you said, this has happened before where she's like, read something or saw something like I actually don't have it on right now, but I wear like a Whoop band, which is like this heart monitor thing. It measures your sleep. And she kind of was like, yeah, I read this thing about Whoop. Want to try it? I'm like, yep, sure. So it's very similar. She was like, listen, here's the deal. I want to connect you and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Like, cause to your point earlier, as an athlete, there's really not much that separates us from our competition. It's these really little small things that change it. And that's actually how I would describe nutrition. It's like, because for those that are like, what, I've gotten this far, I've been eating the same way forever, I've gotten this far, but it's only going to make you like, it might only make you, I should say, this much better, but this much is the difference. That's what people like they're looking for something that's going to increase them this much, but that's not what it is when you're an elite athlete. It's just this much. So so anything that she thinks is going to help this much, I'm all for. And then, I mean, it ended up being like totally hilarious and interesting. I mean, when we do like the whole, like the initial consult, not the first one, but after all the stuff is done, I mean, Megan and I were like dying laughing for like days on some of the stuff we learned about ourselves. So it was great. Yeah.
I know. Well, because I can tell, like, it's so funny. I say I should blind read a genetic profile and then like sketch out and like create the person I think it is.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff about, right. So I know your ancestry. So I kind of know that piece. And then I know like how you process through all your nutrients and all that kind of stuff. But then I can learn stuff about your personality and, you know, how you handle stuff and kind of if this person, I bet you this person's an athlete based on, you know, their, you know, genetic advantages, the variants that they've gotten. And then I can tell somebody who's like, ooh, if this person was an athlete, I bet you they're injured or their career didn't go very long because they're just like genetically predisposed to a bunch of stuff. But it's so funny. So I learned so much stuff about you guys.
Yeah.
So when I went through that initial stuff, what are some of the things that stood out to you? And it doesn't have to be nutrition. If you don't remember anything about nutrition, I get it.
No, I pretty much remember everything. Like the nutrition stuff was what you said. It was the gluten and the lactose were probably like the two where it was like, oh man, this could be like dramatic change. Like no gluten, what a pain in the butt. I don't digest coffee well or caffeine well. Yeah. So that wasn't, I kind of knew that. I was like, so that's what's interesting about it. It's like a lot of stuff. If you're in tune with yourself, a lot of the stuff is like, yep, not surprised. Like caffeine, I was like, yep, I get like crazy when I drink too much coffee. Not surprising. So now I have to limit myself in that way.
Yeah, you're a slow caffeine metabolizer.
Yeah. So that was like nutritionally. I mean, the vitamin stuff, I kind of just like, I'm like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. I'm like, I can't get caught up in like, but the food, the actual like food, that's more like where you pay attention. So those are the three things I definitely remember. Just the Mediterranean diet stuff, which luckily because of Susan, really, I was already kind of on that train. So that wasn't that much of like a deviation from the norm. And then you venture into like the athlete stuff. And for both Megan and I, was like, yeah, like we're athletes. This is what it is. There was some stuff about leadership, about, and then being like a warrior. So like, you know, meditation is probably, as you said, it was probably something that was good for me to add. And then there's like not the like ha funny stuff, but kind of like I guess my skin stretches easy or something. So like changing, you're gonna know like the words. I just know the layman.
So funny.
I don't even know.
Glycation. Yeah.
Okay. So that. Another one in nutrition. This one I knew for sure, but it was nice to have someone like tell you. I don't know when I'm full, like for sure. I can like eat. I know this about myself. I knew it about myself. I like, for example, I knew for years, like it had happened, but I knew for years, like if I'm in ever a buffet type situation, I like try not to put a lot on my plate because I know whatever is on my plate, I will finish. I will eat. Like It's not, it's like, that's not, so if it's there, I don't know that I'm full. So I just go. So now I'm like really aware, hyper aware, but I already kind of knew. So that was an interesting one too. There's more, I'm trying to think. Yeah, the skin one, it was something with stretch marks and glycation. So changed my lotions.
I know, which is so funny because I'm a dietitian, right? So I'm like, this has nothing to do with nutrition really, but it has to do with genetics and it's a super easy switch. So if you start taking care of your skin now, you won't look like this. You remember I showed you the picture? You won't look like this.
Yeah. Yep. There was stuff about heart attack gene, and then there was like the Alzheimer gene stuff. So that's like on the scarier side, but I'd rather know than not. And then you can kind of act accordingly. I remember some of Megan's, which to me were the funniest ones for me. Like this, it's like not funny, but so the poor girl, like she's got like whatever that she can gain weight easily. So like later on in life, she has to be really mindful, but then simultaneously, she doesn't get like the workout endorphins or whatever the hell, like the high.
Yes.
So, like,
she has like exercise aversion.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't get like the euphoria after working out. Neither do I.
So she like doesn't like to work out, but is like predisposed to gaining weight. I was like, oh man, that's
a rough combo.
Like a whammy. But we laughed about it. So yeah, there's a lot that I remember from it.
Oh, that's awesome. And so one of the things that I liked to talk about with genetics, especially with athletes. And now I work with a bunch of athletes, thanks to you guys. I mean, you guys talk in the locker room and on the bus, and then I would get texts like, hey, we're playing Atlanta tomorrow, and so-and-so, you know, which is awesome. So now I have a bunch of you. But it's really good to think about it long-term, right? So, and this has to do with genetics too. So you have some gifts that you were given from your genetics, like, you know, being naturally gifted at power sports, or there's other athletes that I do have, like swimmers who are totally gifted in endurance, you know, so it kind of like aligns, and you learn that from a young age, right? Like you start by playing a bunch of sports, and you'll find out naturally, like, oh, I'm super good at soccer, I'm going to keep going here, or I suck at this and I don't like this, you know. And so some of your genetic, you know, predispositions start to come out earlier, but you can only ride out those God-given gifts for so long. And so I think a lot of athletes in their careers, they all of a sudden hit that wall where they're like, so I feel like I'm peaking. Like I've kind of ridden out that, you know, my talent that I've been given to a certain point. Now it's like, oh crap, now what do I do? So it's really fun for me to get young athletes, like in their, you know, 21, 22.
I wish.
Yeah. And that's what you guys say. Cause it might not feel like you're doing very much, like, oh, okay, she switched my vitamin, like, oh, big deal. But long-term, like being on the appropriate form and stuff, that's going to make sure that you play into your 30s, you know, which is so important. So I want to talk a little bit about longevity for you, health-wise, and kind of career-wise, life-wise. So when you think about your health long-term with some of the longevity things, kind of talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, I think the first thing I would say is what I've learned now, and maybe I wish I knew it then, but I feel like I got lucky, right? Like here I am 38, I've already kind of beaten the whole like longevity thing. Like I'm on the other side of it. And some of this stuff, whether it's my workout regimen or my diet, didn't change till later. So I kind of got lucky in some ways, which is probably genetics, to be honest. But what I know now that I wish I knew then was just everybody's different. And you can't take like what one book says or what one article says or what one strength coach says, and he or she is applying that to an entire team. Doesn't mean it's going to be working for you. It's not, you know, like everybody's different. Obviously the genetic test tells you that, but even your workout regimen, which is not a test you can necessarily take, it's about maybe working with the right person. For me, it was Susan, and like figuring out like, I have a bad knee, so I have to be like very mindful of like how much wear and tear I'm putting on that thing, you know? And the minute I started doing that, or Susan started doing that, it really, I was able, plus the diet change, it like, I turned a corner in this whole other way. So I think that's the thing that to me is longevity. It's figuring out what's going to work for you and what's right for you outside of like what you might be like learning or being put on you from a team, and really kind of going in that direction. That to me is longevity.
And then fitness wise, so once you're done doing basketball and training for basketball specifically, what do you see yourself doing for fitness long term? What do you hate? Like, what will you definitely not do?
I don't know. Actually, yes, I do know one thing. You know, the bike, it's called an Aerodyne.
Yeah.
And like you do this and there's like a wind situation. If I never see that bike again, I'm totally fine with that. But I do spin class. I like it. You know, there are days where I dread it, just like anybody. But for the most part, it's 45 minutes. You get in, you get out. Boom, you did something good. The pool, I have like a love-hate. I love it after. I hate it the entire time and all the leading up. Just because it's like, it's the pool. It's a process.
Do you swim or do you do like rehab exercise in the pool?
Both. It's like always like a combination. Oh no, I thought of one that's really awful. This one's really awful. It's a Megaformer class.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Oh, don't. It's like, so it's basically, it's kind of like a Pilates reformer. It's called a Megaformer though. So it's got that whole like pulley system, but it's different. And it's essentially Pilates like on steroids, in that you're doing very similar movements. Some are different, but it's always like a slow count. So everything's like very slow and deliberate. So you'll be doing something really hard and you have to like, even if it's just like a bicep curl using the cords, and it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then down 1, 2. So it's like a 45-minute class. And the whole time, I mean, I bet I break take like little breaks in that class, like 20 times a class. Cause it's that hard. It's so hard. No, I'm not joking. It's like really good for you, but it's really hard.
So you won't be doing that.
I don't know. That's the thing. Like I know the game. So like, and I feel like there's definitely going to be like a detox period where I'm not going to want to work out at all. I already can feel it. Like I'm not going to want to do anything. And then there's going to be, come a time where it kicks back in and I'm going to want to do things that are challenging because that's what I've been doing my whole life. So when a workout's like not challenging, I'm kind of like, did it even happen? If I don't feel like absolute crap during and after, did it happen? And that's maybe I either have to like retrain my brain or just go with it. So the Megaformer is tough, but I'm sure it'll stay in some way, shape, or form.
I went to this, Abby Wambach, I went to this talk. She has a book, Wolfpack. Did you read it yet?
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I know.
You have it? Yeah. So I went to this talk she gave in Seattle and she was saying the same thing. She's like, I did a detox period. And she didn't like move. I think she said like 3 years or something. And then she just started running and she's like, I hate running.
I don't think I'd be on the treadmill.
And so it's so funny to hear an athlete who she probably had to run so much during her career. Now she's like, I'm making myself run, but I hate running.
Well, it's like when there's no ball involved, it's difficult. So like when there's no like ball or I don't even mean literal goal. I just mean like
a goal. Yes.
Yeah. Like, well, I'm doing this for this. I think it's hard for athletes to just go around on the treadmill. And like, honestly,
go ahead.
Yeah. No. So yoga it's kind of all the same. I'm probably going to have to get a knee replacement. Like I've had numerous doctors tell me this, like that's so like, I don't know how that's going to impact things. I probably won't be able to just go for a run all the time. And yoga right now for me is actually really hard because I've had both my hips surgically repaired. And so it's just like, it's just yoga positions are really hard for me.
Yeah.
So like I can do like minimal stretching or like soft stretching and that's fine, but yoga's tough. But maybe when I'm done and like I'm not pounding my body constantly and everything has a chance to calm down, maybe yoga can like enter back in.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have a good plan going. You're going to be fine.
Listen, let's be honest. I'm going to be like, Susan, what do I do?
Give me post exercises. I need a 50s plan. Yeah. Okay. And then longevity past basketball. So basketball's been such a big part of your life. Yeah. Once that is over, what are some of like your passion projects or things that you really want to kind of experience or accomplish or get involved in once basketball isn't like your main focus?
I mean, that's the question right now, I've been lucky in that I have stopped going overseas, or I had stopped like 4 or 5 years ago. So I've had some time in the off season to try some new things and see like what my post basketball career or life will look like, but also simultaneously still play. So I've dipped my toe in a couple waters. I've tried some commentating, which I actually enjoy. I've done some front office work with the NBA, which is cool. Like learned a ton. And I think it's just going to be about, in terms of like job, like figuring out just what I enjoy. Like, I don't want money to be the driver in any of that. Outside of that, I'm still like the WNBA is still something I'm really passionate about and I want to grow. So I can't imagine I'm not trying to help in some capacity with that. I feel like there's been a big miss for me in terms of like the city of Seattle, the community, and being able to like be hands-on with kids and like camps and things of that nature, just because I was always gone. So there's like, sometimes I think about that type of thing, like starting some sort of basketball camp here in Seattle and seeing where it goes. I don't know. I'm like, clearly don't know what I want to do, but I have some good options. So.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So a couple follow-up questions. So you're like bi-coastal girl. Do you see yourself staying West Coast, or do you think you'll ever move back East Coast?
I feel like we'll always have both something East Coast and West Coast. I can't imagine giving up either, to be honest. I totally understand that there could be a job that opens where like I have to be somewhere permanently, but like I still think I'll keep an apartment like in both places. I really do. I just don't see it any other way. It's like I'm from the East Coast, all my family and friends are out there, but yet I grew up in Seattle in some weird way. Like from 21 to now, this is where I've spent, except for those months in Europe, this is where I've spent like all of my time, like my American time where like 90% of my American time has been spent here. So I grew up here. Like I became an adult in Seattle.
Yeah, those formative like 20s.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, where you're on your own and you're figuring things out. So this is like my city in that way. So it would be hard to give that up. And like the storms here, so I always have that connection. Yeah, I'll be in both for sure. Even if I got a job in like Arkansas, I'm keeping these two. There's no way I'm not.
Well, you've been traveling to Denver a little bit. How's it been?
Yeah.
How's it been with the Nuggets?
It's been great. It's been great. It was like the perfect little, I was gonna say segue. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's been this like nice little half in, half out kind of commitment where I was pretty much going there once a month and staying for like a week, sometimes a little bit more. Going to practices, going to games, being in the meetings. So when I was there, I was like all in, but they were totally respectful that I was still playing and I still kind of had this other hat to wear, which was like my own hat. So I had like this Denver Nugget hat where I'm like a Denver Nugget employee, but then I'm also like, I am still my own thing. Because when you're an athlete, I hate using the word brand, to be honest, but it's kind of the only thing that fits. You're like your own little brand. So like I still had to do things for that. And they were totally respectful of that. So I would leave, I would do that. When I wasn't there, I would actually scout a little bit. I went to some UW men's basketball games, actually, some random games on the East Coast as well. Watched a lot of video, that kind of thing. But like I said, they were really cool about letting me kind of have my own time. So then I got to like flip back and forth. So it was like a perfect, middleman type of experience where I got to do both. And I loved it. I learned a ton. The NBA is like, obviously a thriving business, but it's a well-oiled machine, and there's a lot that goes into just choosing a team. It's so much different from the WNBA. So it was cool. And I really feel like I learned a lot that I can take back to the WNBA as well.
And it's been so fun to watch different WNBA players now getting involved in the NBA.
Yeah.
And coaching.
Yeah.
And
everything.
Have you ever thought of coaching at all? Or is that something that you've, played around with?
Yeah. I played around with it. The only thing that's really been like a deterrent is that being a coach is kind of the same life as being a player, meaning like you're traveling, you're on the road, it's just from one game to the next, and it's a different job, obviously, but there's still like it's the same life. And so I've always thought like, do I want to live the same life again? Like I just lived that life. Yeah. So that's kind of for me the biggest deterrent. But the actual act of coaching, I love. I feel like I'm already in some ways like an extension of the coach on my own team.
Yeah.
Because they're so young. So I'm constantly trying to like help them out, give them advice and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's in the back of my mind. And actually Denver was open to even like me getting more involved in the coaching for them. Like nothing permanent. It's hard to have somebody in and out when you're in a coaching role, but they were like open to me like being in that. And I just wanted to experience more front office stuff. Cause like I never get to see what that's like. Whereas coaching, I kind of have an idea what that's like.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. You have some passion projects going on now. I want to hear about them.
Which ones?
Just give me the list.
I'm like, do I have a list? Well, like most recently, Megan and I did this little like collaboration with Uninterrupted. And it's for Pride Month, and it's, to kind of bring awareness. So Megan and myself linked up with this designer to like do this hoodie.
Yeah.
And yeah. And it's pretty amazing. Like just the response, again, it's all about like bringing awareness, and this poor little boy, Nigel, he ended up committing suicide because he got bullied for being gay. And he was wearing at the time this sweatshirt that had like a rainbow across it. So, and I'll give Megan like deserves all the credit on this. First of all, she was going to be a fashion designer or something in the fashion world. She's already got her own business going.
Yes.
You know that. Yeah. So like she's on her way. So she like totally took over on the call and was like, okay, I think we should take the rainbow, put it on the back. We should have stuff down the arm, this, that. So she was really like the creative behind it all. I was just kind of like, yep, whatever Megan says.
Sounds good.
Yeah. But it was cool because sadly, like this is good and bad. So the initial idea was like, all right, we'll make X amount of hoodies and we'll send them to like, we made like this whole list, and some of it like Uninterrupted made because, they have like LeBron on there, and because Maverick Carter and LeBron kind of started Uninterrupted, and then like various different NBA players. And we kind of got to add our input, and it's only like 200, 250 people who got the hoodies.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole idea was that by sending these people these hoodies, they were accepting and kind of signing, like not literally, but signing this pledge that they were also going to, you know, spread awareness and do this and do that. And what we found was like, everybody was like, where can I buy one? Where can I buy one? Where can I buy one? And we were like, I know. We're like, oh my God, they're not for sale. Like that wasn't the initial goal, I guess, to like sell and have proceeds go to, but that wasn't the initial goal. So I don't know. It's been pretty cool to see people kind of light up at it. It's a really dope sweatshirt, but like what it means is even better. So it's been fun.
That's awesome. And then any other collabs coming up or anything that any companies you want to start later?
Not right now. I don't know.
You got enough on your plate?
Yeah, like it's been a really like amazing, crazy off season and like so busy, but in the best ways.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's just the most recent thing that's been going on.
Yeah, well, I love it. I saw the sweatshirt and I saw the thousands of comments like, where's the link?
I know.
Where's the link?
And it's like, I know. And it's like, even like friends or teammates or whatever, they're like, oh, what's up? Where can I get one? And I'm like, not for sale. And they're like, what? Yeah, I know. Well, that's a whole other.
I'm sure.
Not in a bad way, but I'm just like, they only made this many. I don't know.
I know. Well, it's awesome. The sweatshirt is beautiful and I love it. I love that you guys are getting more involved in that. And Megan is amazing with her fashion.
She is. I mean, she's got an eye. I mean, sometimes the stuff she puts on, I'm like, cause you know, she'll get dressed for something and then she'll be like, how's this look? And I have to literally go, give me a minute. Cause it's like, my initial response is like, what? It's like wild, it's whatever. And then I got to put I literally say, I'm like, let me put my Megan goggles on. And then I come back and I'm like, okay, I like it. I see where you went with that. And she was like, yeah, I know. I'm like, well, why'd you? Cause sometimes I'll be like, no, that's too much. She's like, no, I like it. Okay, whatever. She's just on like a whole other level, literally.
She's like, so fashion forward.
Yes. She'll send me like a link to like a pair of shoes and she'll be like, oh my God, you have to get these. And I'm like, I don't know. And then like a month later, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I want them now. You know,
you
like,
have to, process it.
Yeah. Or like all of a sudden I've seen 3 people wear the shoes that she was telling me about like 6 months prior. And she's like, see, I told you. And I'm like, dang it. Yeah. She's in like, it's like not, it's a talent. It's not, it's like, she loves it. So it comes easy to her, but it's really like a talent.
Yeah. It's amazing to see what she's doing and just what she wears. It's so fun.
I know. She's funny.
Okay. Last kind of like wrap it up question.
Okay.
That I like to ask people. And I'll tell you mine first and then, I want to hear yours. So I always think about, you know, how many different decisions we make throughout our life that could have totally changed the course of our life. Like we could have lived somewhere else. We could have been with another person. We could have done another career. I mean, there's so many different little decisions that you make throughout. And so one of the things I like to think about, especially since your career ends up taking up so much of like your identity and who you are and how you spend a lot of your time. So I obviously became a dietitian. There's a road to, you know, what happened with that. But if I went back and I totally had to choose something totally different, kind of knowing what I know now, almost like hindsight, if I couldn't be a dietitian, I think I'd be a paramedic.
Okay.
I love the rush.
The rush.
The adrenaline, and I love healthcare and medical stuff. And I got a little bit of that in residency and stuff. So I did a ride with Life Flight, which are like the helicopters, and got to do with, be with firefighters and stuff. Cause, there's, IV nutrition you have to do for trauma patients and burn victims and all that stuff. So I kind of got a little piece of it. But I think it would just be a really cool job and be a little bit flexible because they do these like long shifts. And so like I'm a mom. And so I was like, ooh, I'd totally be like a firefighter or a paramedic, which is so funny and so different than what I do now. So if you could go back and maybe it's not even athletics.
I was going to say, this is going to be really boring. I already know what I'm going to say. It's going to be pretty boring.
What would you do?
What would I do? I mean, I feel like I was born to be an athlete. There's no way around it. When I think about my childhood, all I was doing is constantly playing. I was either like playing a sport, or I was riding my bike to go play a sport, or just riding my bike, or climbing a tree, or like doing something. That's what I was made to do. So if I were to pull out, which is somewhere in this house, to be honest, if I were to pull out my 5th grade yearbook And it's like, cause you know, you're graduating. Well, for us, it's like you
Yes.
graduate from fifth grade to move on to middle school. And it's like name, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like what you want to be when you grow up, some sort of question like that. And it was like, be a lawyer and accountant, which is like, I'm sure I said those things because like, that's what everyone was saying. And those like
Yes.
it was either that or like doctors, like the 2 jobs, you know, or the 3 jobs, you know? So it's like, I either want to be a lawyer, an accountant, or a professional soccer player. And the truth is, if I didn't play basketball, I would have gone down the soccer route. So I feel like it's kind of a boring answer because it's not that different from what I'm already doing,
Yes.
but it's the truth.
And when you think about now, lawyer or accountant, do they resonate with you at all now?
Yeah, no, lawyer would. I like to argue. So that might, if I were to go
point.
outside of athletics, I would have been, sometimes I have a lot, my sister is a lawyer. I have a lot of friends who are lawyers. And every now and then they would tell me stories of mediators, like when they have to go to, and there's like someone you hire to come in and like, you have this side, you have this side, and then there's this neutral person. I think I'd be a really good mediator.
You would be a really good mediator.
Yeah. I'll bring this back to you actually. In my genetic thing, it says my level, I don't know how to word this, but my empathy is like above normal. And I totally see that in my life. And all I have found is that I can easily, as much as someone can, I can put myself in other people's shoes. I think that like plays to empathy. And I think as a mediator, I'd be really good because I can like, even when I have like, even in my own little life with friends and whatnot, like I can usually help settle things because I can like, okay, I see what you're saying. And I see what you're saying. And I can try to help people see what the others is saying.
Oh,
But maybe mediator would be my thing.
There we go. That's such a good talent.
Yeah.
And empathy. I remember your empathy one. I was like, and you guys were like, and Megan was like, oh my God, so right on. She's so empathetic.
Yeah.
It was so sweet. But
sometimes to the detriment. Sometimes it's like you don't want to see other people's sides, you know, because you like want to like, I don't know. And then I'm like, I do. And I get like soft about it. I'm like,
no. And it's hard to teach too. It's like something, you know, that you have to really like work on, especially with little kids, like teaching empathy, and to be so naturally empathetic is such a great
genetics. Genetics.
There we go. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Is there anything else that you wanted to say to the world or
no
with nutrition or health or life?
No, just Google me and you'll find it all anyway.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem.
You cannot buy the uninterrupted sweatshirt for those that are wondering and asking. So there's going to be no link on this podcast. It's
maybe one day.
Yeah. Maybe you and Megan will design a different one in Megan's new fashion house.
Yeah. She's got a new company.
I know.
They're putting out a shirt. Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Anyway, well, have a good day. Have a good recovery. I know there's a lot of people rooting for you and excited to see you back. So good luck. And we will be talking soon about all the other stuff and vitamin check-in and all that. Okay. Thanks so much, Sue.
Bye, guys.
Bye.